All right, guys, training camp is in full swing, and now that we've had time to digest the landing spots, draft capital, and early camp buzz, it's time to update my rookie rankings. This class had some serious upside and some major question marks. We've got day 2 steals rising fast, former top picks falling out of favor, and some deep sleepers you need to keep an eye on before your fantasy drafts. Whether you're playing redraft, dynasty, or just watching with a scout's eye, this list is going to give you the real story. No hype, no fluff. So without further ado, let's dive into my updated top 50 rookie rankings heading into the final stretch of training camp.
Hey.
All right, guys, so kicking off the top of my S tier, and it's the only rookie that's in my S tier, is Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State, landing with the Raiders at the 6th overall pick. And guys, if y'all have heard me talk about him at all throughout this offseason, he's just an absolute monster. I think he's going to be a top 5 back for the foreseeable future in Dynasty. There's not really much to say about him that hasn't already been said. You should be taking him 101 in your rookie drafts no matter what, unless your settings are crazy. So Ashton Jeanty is the only guy on the top of my S tier, and there's nobody that's really close to him in that regard. All right, guys, kicking off my A tier, you see there's a ton of guys in here, but at the top of my A tier, I've got to have McMillan for the Panthers. Before the draft, I had Travis Hunter as my wide receiver 1 just due to talent, but I think Tet got the better landing spot because Bryce Young is just going to be spamming targets to him, I think. And with Travis Hunter, he's not going to be the one in that offense. BTJ is going to be the one in that offense. But regardless, I do think Travis Hunter will still be fantasy relevant as a wide receiver 2. Next up, after my 2 wide receivers, you have Travion Henderson, who notably I have in front of Omarion Hampton. I know a lot of people think that's a hot take, but with Travion, I just see the ceiling with him. I have him as like a souped up Reggie Bush in my opinion, and with the Patriots, I think they're going to give him a ton of touches. With Ramondre Stevenson, he just wasn't efficient last year. He fumbled the ball a ton. And Travion Henderson, if you know anything about his collegiate career, he doesn't fumble. That's just not something that he does. Now, I will say in the future, maybe in 2026, 2027, Omarion Hampton could be a more reliable fantasy option once Najee Harris gets out of Los Angeles. But for now, I have Travion Henderson ahead of Omarion Hampton just because of the upside. But I can't deny what I saw with Omarion Hampton on tape. He is spectacular. He has great acceleration, and he lands in one of the best offenses for a running back. Obviously, I think he's going to be splitting carries more than people will like to admit with Najee Harris. But I think once Najee is gone after this season, Omarion Hampton's going to explode in value. Now, next up, I can't put Cam Ward any lower. I do think he's going to struggle early on, but he is the number 1 overall pick in this draft, and I do like a lot of the tools that he brings to the table. He has a ton of upside, especially in the off-script playability with him. So if the Titans can figure out their playmakers, I think Cam Ward can have some high upside. Like I said in the videos before, he's got the upside of Mahomes and the downside of Zach Wilson. So he's a very polarizing player, and I hope he does well with the Titans. Next up, we have RJ Harvey, who's another polarizing player just because he's older, but I loved him coming out of UCF. I loved the elusiveness, the cutback ability, just the burst, just the home run hit ability that is RJ Harvey. And he goes to the Broncos, and you know Sean Payton and the Broncos, they love to run their backs. And I think RJ Harvey going in the 2nd round is going to be spectacular for him. Audric Estime's there. I don't think he's very much of a threat. Jaleel McLaughlin. I think RJ Harvey is going to be the premier back, and I think he's going to get all the high value touches in that offense. Next up, a guy who easily could be up there ahead of Cam Ward as of right now is Emeka Egbuka for the Broncos. So there's news that Chris Godwin might not start the year at all. He had another offseason surgery on his foot, and that might slow him down for training camp, and it might even lead to him missing a few games, which means Mike Evans, who is getting on up there in age, is the only guy competing with Emeka Egbuka. I know people like Jalen McMillan. I'm not a big Jalen McMillan guy. Thought he was just touchdown upside and that was it. But with Emeka Egbuka, guys, he is spectacular. He's been showing out in rookie minicamp. So far, he's been showing out in training camp as well, so I can't wait to see what Emeka Egbuka brings to the table. Super good human being also. Next up, one of my more exciting running backs in terms of a running back that I'm excited for, it's Caleb Johnson for the Steelers. I think he's going to get a lot of carries. I wouldn't be shocked if he got over 200 carries this year in that Arthur Smith offense. He lands in the perfect situation for him, his play style. So he wants to be, that zone gap scheme, and that's what Arthur Smith loves to run. And Caleb Johnson, I loved a lot of what he brought to the table. He's super young as well, and he elevated that Iowa offense to the sky. I mean, Iowa was a historically bad offense. Once he got there, he brought those numbers up. So can't wait to see what he does in Pittsburgh. And then lastly, one of my favorite players in this entire draft is Tyler Warren out of Penn State. I see a lot of Rob Gronkowski with him. I see like Taysom Hill as well. He's a very versatile player, Tyler Warren is, and he goes to the Colts, which definitely has a quarterback question mark right now with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. Are either one of them going to be viable options? I'm not sure. But with Tyler Warren, he is a fantastic player. You can line him up as a fullback, running back, tight end, out wide at receiver if you need to, and he's just a bowling ball in space. He's just super physical, and I can't wait to see what he does with the Indianapolis Colts. I think Shane Steichen's going to scheme him heavily. But yeah, that is my A tier. There's a ton of guys in here that could definitely be super fantasy relevant in the coming years. Kicking things off with a little bit of controversy at the top of my B tier, we have Quinshon Judkins for the Browns, who obviously I would have him over Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey if he didn't have any legal troubles, but unfortunately he's gotten himself into some pretty serious legal issues as of right now, and I think he's going to be suspended at least for 6 games, I would have to assume. But I don't think this is going to ruin his career by any means. I think he'll bounce back and be fine, but it's definitely not a great start for his career. I think he will bounce up into the A tier once he gets everything flowing again and getting back on the football field and not making any more dumb choices, fingers crossed. Next up is a guy I wasn't super high on coming out of Ole Miss. I didn't think he was super pro ready. I thought he needed to go to a team where they would give him time to develop. And then the NFL, as of right now with your first round quarterbacks, that rarely happens. They usually just throw you into the fire. But with the Giants drafting him in the first round, that's exactly what he's going to have. He's going to sit behind Russell Wilson for a year, develop, and I think that's the perfect thing for him. That's why he's so high up on my list, because he's not going to play very much this year. And then as long as Brian Daboll, who has developed raw quarterbacks before, like Josh Allen, he can develop into something special because you see it all over the tape with him. He is spectacular. Next up, this guy might move down my list a little bit just because he's dealing with some soft tissue injuries, but it's Luther Burden for the Bears. He is fantastic. Yak ability through the roof. I think he's spectacular. He was a top 3 wide receiver for me coming out of the draft. Obviously, the Bears is a star-studded offense, and I think he could be utilized kind of like Amon-Ra St. Brown since Ben Johnson's coming over from the Lions for their head coaching position. So we'll see how he does. It's definitely crowded as of right now with DJ Moore, but I can see Luther Burden just tearing it up in 2026. Next up, as a guy, a lot of people probably expected me to have a little bit higher, and honestly, I could have guys like Besh and Kyle Williams ahead of him, but I can't deny the draft capital. Matthew Golden landing in the first round to the Packers. I don't love Packers wide receivers historically, just because they don't lock onto one target. They always spread the ball around. But Matthew Golden, I wasn't super high on as a prospect. I thought he was decent, thought he had some good ball skills, but overall, I didn't think he showed the speed that he showed at the combine on tape. That's just me, though. We'll see how he does with the Packers. I think he'll play the X role for them since Christian Watson has proven he can't stay healthy, which isn't the best profile for a fantasy wide receiver. Next up, we have Colston Loveland, also landing with the Bears. super talented tight end. I think he's a better real life tight end than a fantasy tight end, but nonetheless, him and Cole Kmet will work in a lot of 12 personnel sets, so we'll see how he does with the Bears. But next up, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this guy. It's Kyle Williams for the Patriots. He's been showing out in training camp for the Patriots. I loved him as a prospect. I thought he was going to go in the 5th, 6th round just because that's how everybody was judging him as a player, but he ends up going all the way in the 3rd round to the Patriots. Super good draft capital for him. Not a very star-studded wide receiver room behind Stephon Diggs, and I don't know how good Diggs is at this point in his career. And he has super good yak ability, great downfield speed, releases that can make corners look stupid. I think he's super polished for the NFL as of right now, and I think he's going to have a solid rookie season. And if he gets some rapport with Drake May, I think he's going to be a star for this New England Patriots offense. Next up, a guy that I was even higher on as a prospect, and that was Jack Bech out of TCU. People like to helmet scout and say TCU wide receivers aren't good, right? You have Quentin Johnston a few years back. Jack Bech is the opposite of Quentin Johnston, guys. He's a big wide receiver, but his hands are fat. They're amazing. His hands are absolutely spectacular. He will come down with pretty much any ball that you throw his way. His speed is a little limited, but his deep speed is pretty solid. His releases are fantastic. He can run any route in the route tree and is just a dog. And going to the Raiders, they really don't have much behind Jacoby Myers. I know they drafted Dante Thornton, but I think he's very raw. I don't expect him to play a ton this year. But with Jack Bech, I think he's going to be a very reliable option for us in fantasy. Just a guy that's going to be able to get you as many yards as possible. Kind of like a Hunter Renfrow, but souped up. Next up, we have Cam Skattebo out of Arizona State, and man, he's limited as an athlete, but there's nothing that you can take away from him from his toughness, and he just will not be tackled. Going to the Giants, I think he's got a clear path to the RB1 role. I know Tyron Tracy is a darling for a lot of you Dynasty owners, but I think Skattebo is more of an NFL workhorse running back rather than Tracy, who's more of this kind of receiving hybrid back. But I think Cam Skattebo can be spectacular in this Giants offense. I just can't wait to see how many carries they give him, and hopefully his speed, his long speed, doesn't get exposed in the NFL because it looked great in college. Last on my B tier is a guy many might not put in the B tier, but I'm putting him in here strictly because of the upside, and that's Jalen Milroe for the Seahawks. Obviously, Sam Darnold, I don't think is the long-term answer for the Seahawks. I do expect Sam Darnold to struggle outside of that Viking system. Obviously, we've seen every quarterback under the sun succeed in that Vikings offense under Kevin O'Connell. I think Darnold's going to struggle. I think Milroe doesn't play a lot this year out of some maybe goal line sets where they use his legs. But if they can progress him as a passer and develop him, I think Milroe is super dangerous, and he can be a absolute fantasy cheat code if he hits. So I'm landing him at the bottom of my B tier for that exact reason. As you can see, even more guys in my C tier than any other tier. Obviously, there's a lot of average rookies in this class, in my opinion, but there are some high upside guys in this offense. So starting it off, it's Trey Harris. I do see that he's been making some moves, some waves in training camp, but as the X wide receiver, I think he's going to play the X or the Z. He's going to play on the outside in a run-heavy offense with the Chargers. I just don't see the upside week to week with him. Obviously, they have Ladd McConkey, who's their slot guy, who's going to eat up a lot of those targets. Maybe he'll get a few deep shots a game, but I don't think he's going to be a consistent option for us, hence why he's in my C tier. Next up, Jalen Noel, a guy who I see could have a ton of opportunity. Obviously, he was a 3rd-round pick to the Texans, and you may notice he's the first Iowa State wide receiver on my board. I have him above Jaden Higgins, who a lot of people are loving. But with Noel, I think his skill set just translates better to the NFL. I think he can be the dump-off target that has the yak ability and the explosiveness to gain yards after the catch. And I think that's what it's all about in fantasy. We need yards. We need targets. That's how we generate points. And maybe Higgins is the better football player, but in terms of the profile, I like Higgins a heck of a lot more. Obviously, Christian Kirk's there right now, but he has shown that he can't really stay healthy a consistent amount, and I think Noel will go in there and take that starting job at least halfway through the season, so I love his upside. I even loved him more as a prospect. Next up, Pat Bryant for the Broncos. The famous line over the offseason that Sean Payton compared him to Michael Thomas, and he was one of my sleepers pre-draft, guys. He's a third-round pick. He goes to one of the better offenses in the NFL. He's going to be spectacular, I think. He's got the yak ability. He's got the deep speed. He's not the burstiest off the line, but I do think they're going to utilize him in that slot role immediately. And then Courtland Sutton, once he moves on from the team, that will be, I think he's being groomed to be that Courtland Sutton replacement. He's got a little bit of everything in terms of ability, so we'll see how he does in that Broncos offense. Next up, this guy was my wide receiver 3 coming out of the draft. It's Jalen Royals for the Chiefs. He ends up going all the way in the 4th round. Unfortunately, I thought he was a 2nd-round talent, but the NFL didn't see it the same way. He goes to the Chiefs, which obviously is a great offense to be in, but it's notorious for having its rookies take a while to adjust to that system because it's a fairly complicated system under Andy Reid. But with Rashee Rice potentially getting suspended for 6 to 8 games, maybe even more than that, just depends. Jalen Royals could start in the slot right away. I don't know how effective he's going to be, but he's got some tremendous yak ability, some deep speed. He can get off press. He's got a lot of Malik Neighbors type ability, just obviously not as good, but they're similar types of profiles. So I love what Jalen Royals brings to the table. I think his draft stock fell because of a foot injury that he suffered, but he was on pace to have a crazy season at Utah State. So hope the best for Jalen Royals because he's one of my favorite players in this draft class. Next up, we have Jaden Higgins going at the first pick in the 2nd round, I believe. I think it was the 33rd pick to the Texans. They traded back to get him. I just don't think he's explosive. I don't think he's particularly good of a route runner either, but I can't deny he's got some of the best hands in the class, no question. I think his jump ball ability is fantastic. I just don't like that profile for fantasy, and that's why he's down here. I think he can be a super reliable target for Stroud, opposite of Nico Collins. I think Higgins will start in the Z, Nico in the X, and then Noel / Kirk in the slot. So I think he's got a solid receiving core to work with. But Higgins, I just don't see the targets going to him as much, and I don't like the speed or the separation ability, but we'll see what he does year 1 and onward. Next up, we have the 2nd quarterback. This wasn't a very strong 3rd quarterback. It wasn't a strong quarterback class regardless. 4th quarterback. Sorry. 4th quarterback off the board is Tyler Shuck to the Saints. Yeah, I think he's very limited in what he can do. I think he's more of a check down merchant, and I think that's what he's going to be at the next level, like a bad Alex Smith, in my opinion, a slightly worse mobile Alex Smith. Early Alex Smith, I just don't think he's going to be able to operate in this Saints offense as well as people will hope. And Spencer Rattler, I like him better as a prospect than Tyler Shuck. He's got a ton of injury concerns. He's older. And, obviously you'd like for your older quarterbacks to come into the NFL because they have more experience. Look at Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels. He doesn't have that much experience. He doesn't. He's a 7-year vet in college, and most of that was because he was injured, and he didn't really get to start that much at Oregon. He started a little bit at Texas Tech, but every year he got hurt. His first full season was this past season at Louisville, and yeah, he put up some solid stats, but I feel like he's conservative to a fault. I've said that in other videos, so we'll see how he does. I would much rather, as Kellen Moore, have the gunslinging Rattler out there because he offers you a lot more upside, but we'll see who they end up going with. It'll probably be Shuck if I had to guess. Next up, Bashal Tutin, a guy that everybody is high on just because he's super fast. He ran the fastest 40 at the combine for the running backs, and he's been lighting it up in training camp as well. I just hate the fumbling issues with him. I don't think his vision's particularly that good. We'll see how the coaches develop him, and obviously he doesn't go to the a running back room where there's nobody there. They have Tank Bigsby, who looked good in a few games last year. Travis Etienne, who has looked good in the past, hasn't looked great this past season, but he was hurt. So we'll see what Bashal Tutin does. I'm not super high on him, hence why he's in my C tier. Next up, a guy who has a ton of upside is Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. Yeah, a Bowling Green player is on here. This guy led all pass catchers, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends in yards and catches last year at Bowling Green. This guy's a yak monster. He's a little undersized for the NFL, but we'll see how he does in that Browns offense. Obviously, they have Njoku, but I don't think they're going to re-sign him after this season, hence why they picked a tight end in the 3rd round. Next up, Dylan Sampson to the Browns. He went up my list a little bit. I did not like him at all as a prospect. I thought he was just a big play guy and that was it, and that's not really a great profile for fantasy. You want a consistent guy. I didn't think his vision was very consistent. His contact balance wasn't great either. He was just, if you get him an open hole, he's able to take it for a touchdown. He definitely has the breakaway speed. He gets propped up a little bit just because of the Judkins situation. I do expect him to get a good amount of touches in the first 6 weeks while Judkins is out. But we'll see if he continues that volume after Judkins comes back. We'll see. But yeah, with him, he's high upside, but definitely needs some polish, and he lacks a lot of skills that I look for in running backs. Next up, we have Jaden Blue. He went down a few pegs for me. He was my lowest grading running back in the entire class. I thought he had questionable hands. You know, he runs fast, but that's about it. I didn't love his vision. Texas maybe just didn't really utilize him that well. I'm not sure, but definitely not a big Jaden Blue guy, and apparently he has some character issues as well, as a few rumors have suggested in Cowboys camp. So we'll see how he does, but not really a big fan of Jaden Blue, but he's in a wide open running back room, so that's why he's all the way down here. Next up, we have Terrence Ferguson for the Rams. And guys, Terrence Ferguson's super athletic, and I went through the past 10 years of players. Any skill position player that was ever drafted, tight ends, being athletic, that's the number one metric to success. Terrence Ferguson, super athletic, very limited in production at Oregon, but we'll see what he does. Tyler Higbee's there. He's older. I think Terrence Ferguson's going to be in there and come in there and get that job fairly soon. So love Terrence Ferguson as an athlete. We'll see how that athleticism translates to the NFL. Then we have Oronde Gadsden. Love this guy for the Chargers. So he is a former wide receiver. He is the son of an NFL wide receiver. He was like a wide receiver too for the Dolphins in the early 2000s. Love this guy's skill set. I think he runs routes like a wide receiver, has some solid production at Syracuse as well. He has 2 900-yard seasons. As for a tight end, that's pretty impressive. And his hands are phenomenal. I mean, if the ball hits his hands at all, it's going to be his. So love him as a sleeper. Obviously the draft capital's not great, but there's some high upside guys in here. I'm rambling a little bit here, but there's some high upside guys in here, and then there's a lot of duds. There's more so duds in the C tier than upside guys. All right, I'm going to try to go through these guys a little bit quickly for my D tier, but there are some high value guys in here if they're able to smash their draft capital. But first up, we have Elijah Arroyo and Mason Taylor, 2 second-round tight ends that I didn't really like their tape. I thought Arroyo was just a big play merchant where he got wide open on big plays, obviously, kind of like how Quentin Johnston was last year. And with Mason Taylor, I just think he's a horrible run blocker, and he's going to be a liability in the NFL on your run blocking plays. I thought he was okay as a receiving threat. Yeah, those are hot takes, but I just did not like their profiles at all. Elikeo Manor for the Titans, he's an inconsistent wide receiver with a ton of talent. His hands are very inconsistent. One play, he'll catch a one-handed grab over his head for a touchdown. Next, he'll drop a wide-open screen pass. So he's going to have to clean that up, and if he does, I think he's a solid Titans receiver going forward. Next up, we have Jordan James, a guy that I loved coming out of Oregon. He was my RB3 coming out. But, guys, he didn't get the best landing spot, didn't get good draft capital either, but he was a super clean prospect. No fumbles, no tackles for loss, great burst, solid vision as well, can catch the ball out of the backfield. If he ends up getting some starting time, if CMC and Garendo go down, he can be a stud for us in fantasy. Next up is Dante Thornton in the D tier for the Raiders. He's a height, weight, speed freak. He's just very raw. and didn't get a lot of production at Tennessee, didn't get on the field a lot either. So we'll see if the Raiders can develop him, because if they can, he can be a cheat code. I mean, he could be a Calvin Johnson type of player, but that is his absolute ceiling. I don't think he's going to hit that ceiling. He's way too raw as a prospect. Next up, we have Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt for the Commanders. Loved his burst. I loved his film. I was blown away by his film, but he's a late day 3 pick. He's going to the Commanders, which behind Brian Robinson, I think that RB room's wide open. He fell in the draft because of eligibility issues. In his final year, he transferred to Arizona and only got to play 1 game because the NCAA was like, you're not eligible anymore. But at New Mexico, he was a stud, so we'll see how he does with the Commanders. Next up, we have Will Howard for the Steelers. Thought he was their starting quarterback before they signed Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, not going to start in front of Aaron Rodgers. So I loved him as a mechanics guy. I thought he was a pretty high floor quarterback, just didn't have a ton of ceiling. So we'll see how he does after Aaron Rodgers leaves, if they give him a shot at that starting role. Next up, we have Colorado State's Torrey Horton. He's got a ton of yak ability, some solid jump ball ability. He was kind of a drag route merchant at Colorado State in some of those big games where he had a ton of those catches. But he lands with the Seahawks. We'll see how he does if he gets that wide receiver 3 spot behind Cooper Kupp and JSN. He's coming off a knee injury as well, but I haven't heard of any issues, and he ran pretty well at the Combine. Next up, we have DJ Giddens out of Kansas State landing with the Colts. I loved his patience behind the line. I loved his vision as well. He just doesn't have anything for long speed. You're not going to see him break anything longer than like a 40-yard rush at the next level. But he is the RB2 in that offense, in my opinion, behind Jonathan Taylor. So if Jonathan Taylor gets hurt, this guy can skyrocket up rankings. Next up is a guy that probably would have been in my C tier or at the top of this D tier if the Texans didn't sign Nick Chubb. So Woody Marks, I loved him. He was one of my top 10 running backs pre-draft. Just didn't get a great landing spot. He got solid draft capital, but nothing crazy. I think he's a great third down back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield really well, and he's a great athlete as well in terms of elusiveness. But with Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon there for the short term, I just don't see a path to him getting a lot of carries. Next up, you see the little man there, Dylan Gabriel for the Browns. I've heard some good things out of camp. I've heard some not good things out of camp. You can't buy camp rumors a lot. With Dylan Gabriel especially, I thought he was a high floor player. He was very consistent in college. He won everywhere he went. He put up good stats everywhere he went. But with the Browns, they don't have the best wide receiver room, and who knows if he starts or not. I think he'll start a few games. I think Shedeur will start a few games. They'll start probably all 4 of their quarterbacks at some point this year and just see who's the man. I don't know if it's Dylan Gabriel, but we will see. Next up, we have Isaac Tesla for the Lions. It was a head-scratching pick when they picked him. I thought he was a little bit too high. I thought he was picked a little bit too high. I think he was a raw athlete. He's a big, strong, fast wide receiver out of Arkansas. Maybe they just loved the interview with him. I'm not sure what the Lions saw, but if they can develop him, he has a lot of upside. Next up, we have Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech. If you look at the game logs for him last year, he put up 100 yards in every game he played. He put up a touchdown at least in every single game except one. He had some fantastic stats last year at Texas Tech. He lands with the Cincinnati Bengals in I think it was a late day 3 pick. He was a 6th or a 7th round pick, I believe. Behind Chase Brown, obviously, he could be their short yardage back, though. Not a viable option for fantasy as of right now, I don't think. Next up, Trevor Etienne goes to the Panthers in, I think it was a 5th round pick. Wasn't a big Trevor Etienne guy. Thought he was average everywhere. I didn't think he was particularly good at any one thing. And I think in the NFL, you have to be good at least at something. You can't be average everywhere. I just don't think his game's going to translate very well. And he's in a very crowded running back room. Next up, we have Shedeur Sanders for the Browns. I'm not a big Shedeur guy. I think he has a ton of mechanic issues. I think he holds the ball too long. He's not a great athlete. Takes stupid sacks. Tries to do too much. I mean, he's probably going to start a few games for sure. I hope he's able to develop. He's very accurate. He's got a lot of touch as well. I think his ceiling is like a Tua Tagovailoa, which is definitely not insulting, but his floor could be literally a guy that only starts a couple games in his entire career. So we'll see. Next up, we have Ollie Gordon for the Dolphins. I think he'll probably be their short yardage back, but he looked fairly underwhelming last year after having the monster season in 2023 at Oklahoma State. So we'll see how he does. Run blocking for the Miami Dolphins has been very horrible this past year, so we'll see if they can develop him as a short yardage back. And then last up, we have Jalen Lane for the Jets. Think he's going to be a return guy. He offers a little bit of yak ability after the catch out of Virginia Tech. Very questionable production as well. But we'll see. Just last thing before I close out these rankings, there is a ton of upside in this class. Like I said, you have Dante Thornton all the way down in the D tier. There's guys that I loved like Woody Marks, Elik Eoman, Jordan James all the way down in the D tier. And even the guys in the C tier can be definitely fantasy relevant. We'll just have to see. I just think the guys in the D tier are very much gambles. The C tier are guys that you should take upside swings on in the 3rd/4th rounds if you can get any of those guys. Late second for a lot of these guys. B tier, I think, are going to absolutely be fantasy relevant. I think A tier, all of those guys are going to be fantasy relevant. And obviously, Jeanty at the top is going to be a stud for us. So, yeah, those are my rankings. And that wraps up my top 50 rookies. As we head into the final phase of training camp, these rankings will keep shifting as preseason games unfold, depth charts get locked in, and injuries, unfortunately, that can shake things up. Who do you think I'm too high on or too low on? Drop a comment below. I'm always down to debate prospects. And don't forget to join the Bobby's Big Board Discord, where we break down every rookie class, trade, and camp update in real time. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like button if you found this helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Hey.